His Last Beau, a Sherlock Holmes adventure by Jamie Shee, with Sir Richard Ralphson as Dr. Watson and Sir John Feelgood in the role of Sherlock Holmes. Christmas. Christmas in our London of the 1880s. While shepherds washed their flocks by night, gaslit by the gaslights of 1,000 gaslit streets. Christmas. With pine logs brought hither and fine clogs trod thither. With a million trees needling their way through busy avenues to a million different homes. Christmas. With a million puddings and proddings, pricklings, ticklings, snickering and stockings, and a million stuffings and scufflings and cufflings through the jingling bells and mingling smells of a million passers-by. Christmas. And in the glow and glimmer of it, I called at Baker Street to see my old friend Sherlock Holmes. Compliments of the season, Holmes.
What's that? Ah, Watson, my dear fellow, come in and join us. You find myself in the good Lestrade of Scotland Yard on the verge of slicing this excellent Christmas pudding provided by our Mrs. Hudson.
Good evening, Doctor, and a Merry Christmas to you. Good evening, Lestrade. A very Merry Christmas to you, too. I must say, if I'd known I'd be interrupting,
No, don't be offended, Watson. Do sit down. Lestrade came here on business, and I happened to insist upon his staying and assisting me with the good Mrs. Hudson's cooking.
Oh, business, eh? On today of all days, Lestrade?
Yes, Doctor, I'll explain it all to you if you like.
Yes, do, Lestrade. But first, pull up a cracker, Watson, and sit down. There's a good fellow.
Oh, ho, ho. Aha, here's one. What did Adam say the day before Christmas?
I don't know. What did Adam say the day before Christmas?
It's Christmas Eve.
By Jove, Holmes, you've got it. But how the deuce did you know that?
Omni notum pro magnifico. I shan't bore you with my workings on this occasion, Doctor. Incidentally, Watson, why turkey?
Turkey?
The bird. The bird you've just eaten, my dear fellow. Why the excitable and expensive turkey, and not the chicken for which you have settled on previous festive seasons?
Well, I felt like But I haven't said a word about it. How the deuce did you know I'd had a turkey and not a chicken? Or a goose, for that matter?
Your moustache, Watson.
Moustache?
There are some remnants of turkey in your moustache, my good man.
Oh, Holmes, I'm terribly sorry.
Oh, now, please don't be embarrassed, Watson. Lestrade, pass him a napkin. There's a good fellow. There. And, Watson, would you be so good as to pass the brandy butter? In the Persian slipper there. Thank you.
There now, will you tell me what it is you're working on, Lestrade? I'm dying to know.
Yes, do tell him, Lestrade.
Well, Doctor, have you heard of Beau Fiddlé Diamond?
Well, yes, the precious stone belonging to the Countess of Surrey.
The very same. It's gone missing.
Good heavens. Do you have any clues?
All the evidence so far points to a man who installed the Countess's Christmas tree yesterday, a man called Burglar.
He certainly sounds suspicious.
He does indeed, Watson. Well, it seems an interesting enough case, Lestrade.
Come to think of it, I think I glanced at it in the paper today. Now, here it is. A reward of £1,000 for its recovery. Good heavens.
Yes, well, do read more, Watson. It may be instructive.
The Hotel Cosmopolitan jewel robbery. Robert Burglar, tree installer 26, was brought up for having extracted from the jewel case of the Countess of Surrey the valuable gem known as Beau Fiddlé Diamond.
What else, Watson?
It seems that this fellow Burglar was taken up to the Countess's room by her maid, a girl called Catherine Beanbag, to install a festive tree while the Countess entertained guests in the next room in her hotel suite. When the head attendant of the hotel went in, a fellow called James Manger, to see if the work was finished, he found the jewel case was lying empty and that Burglar had gone. He gave the alarm, and Burglar was found by the police, and they arrested him. The case has been referred to the assizes.
Is there any mention of the Countess's esteemed guests at her Yuletide jollification?
It mentions a Lord Bitten, Lady Trout, and various members of the symphony orchestra. There's a photograph here.
Indeed, may I? Ah, there's Miss Irene Fiddler, the well-known violinist.
Yes, but this man burglar pleads innocent.
Well, I never. Thank you, Watson. Yes, well, it seems you have this case quite under control, Lestrade. Not much more I can do.
Hey, what's that?
I find I'm in need of a holiday. It is Christmas Eve, after all, and I'm rather worn out after that case of the red-headed speckled gorilla.
Yes, indeed, Holmes. I'm relieved to hear you say it. As a medical man, I would insist upon rest and recuperation.
Quite, Doctor. Well, Lestrade, let us talk of other things. Will you have a brandy?
No, I won't, thank you, Mr. Holmes. In point of fact, I ought to leave as I have some jollification to do elsewhere.
Oh?
I have a ticket to the Royal Albert Hall for this evening.
Oh, really? What's on?
Yes, Holmes?
Not you, Watson. Do continue, Lestrade.
Well, funnily enough, it's that French violinist, Miss Irene Fiddler. Christmas carols and songs of that sort, you know.
How charming. I suddenly wish I could be joining.
Oh, I'm afraid it's sold out, but they're performing again tomorrow evening, and I believe tickets are available.
I'll book them tomorrow morning, Holmes.
Excellent, Watson. What would I do without you? Run along now, Lestrade. A very Merry Christmas to you and all the art.
Oh, Merry Christmas, Mr. Holmes. Merry Christmas, Dr. Watson.
Merry Christmas, Lestrade. Merry Christmas. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Now, Watson. What do you make of that?
What? This?
The same.
Well, it seems ordinary enough. I don't see anything particularly unusual about it.
On the contrary, Watson, you see, but you do not observe.
Well, I suppose now you mention it, there are some peculiar qualities about it. This appendage here, for example, and this protuberant, bulging projection. It seems as if great harm has come to the... What would it be, a gusset?
Hold it up to the light, Watson.
Eh? But I don't...
You don't?
It's odd how it both deepens and lengthens as it thins out towards the end.
And the singular lump on the top?
Yes. Yes, well, I confess I can't quite make it out, Holmes.
No?
No, well, no doubt you can infer something from it.
I would suggest that it belongs to a little sallow, rat-faced, dark-eyed fellow, a lean, ferret-like man, furtive and sly-looking, who stands at 5'6", dark hair, which he anoints with bear grease, moustache at least 2 millimeters below his nose, and who works for Scotland Yard.
Oh, good heavens, Holmes. How on earth did you get all that?
I fancy by the sound of footsteps on our stairway that you will soon discover, and he's brought someone with him. Ah, Lestrade, no doubt you return to collect this. And who may I...
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. This is Mademoiselle Irene Fiddler, the renowned violinist.
Thank you, Watson.
She wanted to see you, Mr. Holmes. I shall leave you now, gentlemen. I don't want to miss the concert.
Goodbye, Lestrade. Goodbye.
Well, mademoiselle, you'll be missing your concert. To what do we owe the honor?
Oh, Monsieur Holmes, je ne sais pas quoi faire. Vous êtes la seule personne qui peut m'aider. Je suis désolé, je ne parle pas anglais.
How's your French, Watson?
Woefully poor, I'm afraid.
Mine also. I shall have to apply my methods of deduction. Perhaps by careful observation of the facial mannerisms and inflections of the voice, we may infer what she is saying. We might also rule out anything improbable, or indeed impossible, that is, anything unlikely for her to say. We may just as well assume she doesn't.
This seems a most inefficacious method, Holmes.
Well, let us see, Watson. Nothing so far this evening has come as much of a mystery.
Eh?
Pray continue, mademoiselle.
Cher monsieur, je suis censé jouer dans 2 heures, mais mon archet de violon a disparu. Je pense qu'il était volé. Non seulement il est extrêmement précieux, mais c'est aussi le seul que je possède. Pouvez-vous m'aider?
Well, Holmes?
Perfectly simple, Watson. She says she is meant to perform in 2 hours from now, but her violin bow has disappeared. She believes it to be stolen. Not only is it extremely valuable, but it is also the only one in her possession.
Good heavens, Holmes, how?
Later, Watson. Mademoiselle, we are at your service. Not only will we recover your bow for tomorrow's concert, and indeed for all your delightful performances of the future, but I will also lend you my bow for this evening.
Ah, je ne comprends pas ce que vous dites, mais merci beaucoup de m'avoir prêté votre hachette de violon. Je suis très endetté. Je dois y aller maintenant. Au revoir, monsieur Holmes. Au revoir, Dr. Watson. Au revoir. Merci. Au revoir.
Au revoir, my dear. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Oh, well, Holmes.
Well, Watson, compose yourself. We have no time to lose. We shall take the underground train to the Royal Albert Hall.
Really, Holmes?
One hears that travelling on the underground for 40 minutes is the equivalent to smoking 2 cigarettes, which goes some way to explaining its very addictive qualities. Let us make haste, Watson, and here, take this beard, and this hat, and this cassock.
Really, Holmes, I don't see why I...
No time to explain now, Watson. I shall explain on the way. The game! The game!
And so, disguised as an old clergyman, I accompanied Holmes to the underground station of Baker Street, whence we were to travel to South Kensington, where we would alight for the Royal Albert Hall. On our journey, I asked him for some sort of explanation. Now, Holmes, will you kindly tell me how it is that while you claim not to understand any French, you immediately could decipher the meaning of our charming guest? And why am I in disguise as an old clergyman?
I will gladly explain, Watson. You see... And that, I think, explains everything. Does that satisfy you, my dear Watson?
Yes, I believe that answers everything.
Excellent, Watson. Here is our stop. This way, Watson. Mind the gap there.
When we arrived at the hall, Sherlock Holmes led us through a neat set of passages to the backstage area, under the pretense that I had been urgently called upon to perform the last rites to a dying cellist, but that I didn't know the way, and Holmes, being a friend of said cellist, would lead me. It was my job, Holmes had explained, to then knock on the dressing-room door of Mademoiselle Fiddler, who was not yet due to perform for another hour, and upon its opening, faint and collapse to the floor of the outer corridor. This being done, the goodly violinist would attend to me, perhaps even drawing a crowd of helpers, while Holmes, who will have been hiding around the corner of the corridor, would sneak into her dressing-room. He would not, however, confide in me the reason for his needing private access. I did notice on our journey there, despite whatever Holmes may say about my lacking in observational skill, that he brought with him an odd package.
There now, Watson. Are you ready for your performance?
Ready as ever, Holmes. Though I do wish you'd tell me why I...
No time for that now, my good man. Godspeed you. I will be hiding round that corner. You may wake when I give you the signal by saying, "He's coming round."
Very well, then. Oh,
Oh, mon Dieu! Qu'est-ce que c'est? Un prêtre déchu! Attention! Pardon, monsieur. Tout va bien?
He's coming round.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I must have fallen asleep. Do forgive me. I must be on my way now. I assure you I'm quite well. Thank you. Goodbye, goodbye.
Oh, well, Watson, I must say I'm most impressed. You make quite the pathetic old man.
Oh, thank you, Holmes. I do think I pulled it off rather well, though I say so myself.
Yes, and you may pull that beard off now, too. Sit down, my dear friend.
Thank you. Well, now that we're back in Baker Street, would you mind telling me what it is you were doing in Miss Fiddler's dressing room?
All being well, Watson, before the night is out, you will know. For now, content yourself with a pipe, as we sit and wait.
Wait, Holmes? Wait for what?
The answer to that, Watson, is precisely what we must wait for.
And so we sat and waited in the living room of 221B Baker Street, while the fire crackled in the grate and the carol singers continued outside. Before very long, a tinkle on the bell was heard, and we were aroused from our state of reverie on that curious Christmas Eve. Bell, Holmes, there's someone coming.
You are quite right, Watson, and I do believe it will be two people.
Bonsoir, Monsieur Holmes. Bonsoir, Doctor.
Ah, Mademoiselle Fiddlé, back so soon after your performance. I trust it went satisfactorily. And who might this gentleman be?
Monsieur Holmes, I am Monsieur Pierre Chêne. I am the tutor and accompanist of Mademoiselle Fiddlé. We have come to return your bow.
Monsieur Holmes, nous sommes venus vous rendre votre...
That's all right, mademoiselle. I quite understand, thank you.
Une chose de plus curieuse se produit ici. J'ai trouvé mon achette de violon avant ma performance. C'était dans ma loge. Je n'avais pas besoin de votre... Même si je vous en suis très reconnaissant.
She says...
No, Monsieur Chêne, I quite follow, thank you. If I am not mistaken, the good lady says that she found her bow in her dressing room, and that she did not need the use of mine after all. Am I correct?
Quite correct, monsieur. I did not know you could speak French.
I cannot.
Quoi? You must excuse him, Monsieur Chêne. It is only his way.
Quite so, Watson. Well, if that is all, it really only remains for me to take my bow from you and to bid you a very Merry Christmas.
Bien sûr. Here it is, monsieur, your bow.
Thank you. Ah, good heavens, mademoiselle. Is that mistletoe above you? You will forgive me. My landlady, Mrs. Hudson, is quite a nuisance at this time of year, and no doubt she tires of my bachelor ways. However, as I understand you may travel back to France before long, mademoiselle, and it is after all a season of good cheer, might I...
Oh, Monsieur Holmes.
Thank you, mademoiselle. You are France's brightest star, and surely the greatest string to its bow. I wish you both a very good night.
Good night, Monsieur Holmes. Good night, Doctor.
Bonne nuit, mes amis.
Good night, my dear. Good night, Monsieur Chêne. Good night, good night. Well, Holmes, I congratulate you.
Thank you, my dear Watson. I assure you I would not have committed such an act of festive frivolity were it not for reasons of utmost importance.
Eh?
By kissing our friend Mademoiselle Fiddlé, I created a diversion whereby I could switch the bows. I took her bow and replaced it with the one they had just returned to me.
But surely you want your own bow, Holmes?
Ah, but that was by no means my last bow, Watson.
Eh? Well, no doubt you have your reasons, Holmes, but I must say I am absolutely lost in all this.
All will become clear, my good fellow. For now, content yourself with a pipe and sit with me by the fire while we wait.
Wait? Confound it, for what, Holmes?
For our next visitor, of course.
And so we sat and waited again in that famous living room, while the fire and carol singers continued to crackle and trill in the grate and street. And before very long, a tinkle on the bell was heard again, followed by footsteps, followed by...
Ah, Monsieur Chêne, to what do we owe this repeated pleasure?
Monsieur Holmes, you will pardon my bothering you again on such a night. Only I believe there has been some mistake.
Mistake?
Indeed, for some reason that I cannot fathom, I think I failed to give you your bow.
But surely not, I have my bow right here. It is... Ah... Upon my soul, you are quite right. How this has happened I cannot say. The one I have is still unaccountably that of Mademoiselle Fiddlé. Here, take it, my good man, and I will take mine.
Thank you, Monsieur Holmes. Thank you. I shall not bother you again.
Not at all, monsieur. Good night to you.
Good night, Monsieur Doctor. And Merry Christmas. Good night, Monsieur. Merry Christmas. Good night. Good night. Well, Holmes, whatever your plan was, it doesn't seem to have worked.
On the contrary, my dear Watson, it is working perfectly.
But he just gave you back your bow.
You are quite right, but the bow which I gave to him in turn was not the one he came for.
No? What is this, Holmes?
Did he not strike you as familiar, Watson?
Eh? Oh, no, I can't say he did. I must say, such a tall man is easily remembered.
Ah, but if I were to suggest that you may not have seen him in the flesh, but instead only in photographs, what then?
Well, then now you mention it, Holmes, I begin to see dimly.
He, my dear Watson, is none other than Eddie Legs Benedict.
Holmes, the international jewel thief.
The very same, Watson. only in disguise as this French violin tutor and accompanist. We have him in our snare, Watson, and the strings are pulling tighter. For now we must send for Lestrade to bring reinforcements and meet us here. While you do that, Watson, I will prepare a little surprise.
I wired for Lestrade as Holmes had ordered, leaving him to tend to whatever it was he was up to. Though I could not even grasp the beginnings of the complexities of this evening's many twists and turns, I felt as if a conclusion was drawing nearer, and I could begin to see a glimmer up ahead, much as the Magi had done that same night all those years ago. Wise men they may well have been, but I felt I too would be somewhat the wiser before the night was up. Lestrade came, and he, Holmes, and I lay in wait for the sinister, tall gentleman of international renown to call on us once more. The fire continued to crackle, but outside all was quiet. "How long do you think we'll be waiting, Mr. Holmes?"
I estimate he will come in the next half hour, Lestrade.
"I feel as if I were a child waiting for jolly old St. Nick, only—"
Shh, quiet, Watson. He's earlier than I expected after all. Do you have your revolver, Watson?
"Yes, Holmes."
Good. And now... So, got you legs?
What the...
Get behind him, Watson. I warn you, we're armed, legs.
I've got him, Holmes. I've got him. Hold hard, you scoundrel. I'll shoot you, Legs, caught in the very act.
No use, legs. Here come your reinforcements, Lestrade.
And you're under arrest.
For attempted murder of Mr. Sherlock Holmes and the theft of the Beau Fiddlé Diamond.
How dare you? You have no proof.
Don't I? If I'm not mistaken, you also came here to take something, namely this bow. Not mine, you see, but that of Mademoiselle Fiddlé. You see, the eyelet is missing, but no doubt you have hidden that somewhere.
What? Oh, I don't know what you're on about.
Oh, no, I dare say you don't, Mr. Benedict. I must say it's a pleasure to have met you at last. I have followed your career with great interest.
I'll get you for this, Mr. Holmes.
As so many have said before you, I might offer another oft-repeated phrase in turn, Mr. Benedict. A Merry Christmas.
Take him away, men.
All right, well, come on then. We're done it.
Well, Mr. Holmes, I'm very grateful for your assistance in this case. Lord knows I've been wanting to lay my hands on him for some time now, but how did you know it was him?
Yes, Holmes, I'm dying to know how you came to that conclusion also, and what on earth this whole evening has all been about.
Well, let me elucidate you both, gentlemen. But first, Watson, perhaps you'd be good enough to brew some of your excellent punch, and we may all sit down.
Yes, of course. And so we did as he suggested and warmed ourselves by the fire, enjoying the reinvigoration afforded by my punch.
Well, Watson, I do thank you for your patience this evening. I should begin by explaining that ever since I saw the picture in the newspaper article pertaining to the diamond robbery, I knew who was behind it. I recognized the man behind the disguise of Mademoiselle Fiddlé's accomplice as Legs Benedict at once. No doubt his plan was to smuggle the jewel into France upon his return there with our delightful friend the violinist, where he would rendezvous with the rest of his gang. Upon exiting La Cine de la Crème, if you'll forgive my French, yes, I do know a little, Watson, he must undoubtedly be in search of a hiding place. Somewhere it could be safely concealed all through their journey to France. Where better a hiding place than in plain sight? I have known something of this man's methods before. He successfully smuggled the Grand Duchess Anastasia's sapphire necklace tiara out of Russia by exiting the country via a series of fancy dress balls, in which his accomplices would take turns to wear the tiara itself while in fancy dress as the Grand Duchess.
Good heavens!
I knew this latest robbery would follow a similar thread. I fancied that if I were Mr. Benedict, I would hide the jewel in a place that had some links to the Mademoiselle Fiddlé. Why else would he be accompanying her? What was unique to her? Her being a renowned violinist. You could not easily conceal a diamond of that size in a violin itself without having to take it apart and put it back together again, something which he could not conceivably risk. Where else, then, but the bow? The eyelet the threaded brass piece in the frog or handle that allows the bow to be tightened or loosened with the turn of a button. I surmise that he stole into the violinist's room, took the bow, and privately replaced the pearl eye with the diamond. Mademoiselle Fiddler then came to me, as I knew she would, asking for help. I lent her mine. Then Benedict put her bow back in her dressing room, and meanwhile I snuck into just this room to replace it with my own second bow. In this duplicate bow I had planted my own false diamond in the place of its pearl eye.
False diamond, Holmes?
Fashioned from an old cufflink, Watson. I confess the effect was quite startling.
Upon my soul, Holmes, you really are a marvel.
Thank you, Watson.
What did you do then, Mr. Holmes?
Well, thanks to the diversion caused by the immensely talented Watson, we went back to Baker Street and awaited our guests. I knew Mademoiselle Fiddler would want to immediately return my bow and tell me that she had found hers. Though I know her to be a very intelligent and gifted lady, I had banked on my dummy bow being sufficiently believable so as to trick her. So she came, bringing with her Mr. Benedict, along with my dummy bow, and also the first bow of mine which I had lent her. She gave the latter to me.
And then you kissed her, Holmes. You what?
Indeed, under the mistletoe. I shall not forget it. And while I was so doing, I took the opportunity to switch my bow with the dummy bow.
With the false diamond?
Precisely.
Meanwhile, the real diamond was...
still concealed in the eyelet of Mademoiselle Fiddler's original bow, which Watson and I had taken back here, and I kept hidden.
Ah.
I knew that Benedict would later examine the bow and discover that the diamond wasn't in it. Surely, then, he would surmise that somehow it had got mixed up with mine, and that I was now in possession of the diamond bow. We waited for his return, and he obliged. He gave me my bow, while I gave him the dummy diamond bow. Oh, what a delight it was to toy with him, Watson. I knew he would come back a third time, not just to take either by stealth or force the real diamond bow, which he by then must know I was still concealing, but also to seek revenge upon me. The trap being set, I asked you, Watson, to call for the good Lestrade, and for him to bring a few other good men of the police.
By Jove, Holmes! Brilliant! I dare say so, Doctor. But where is the real diamond now? The bow you waggled in Benedict's face just now has a hole in it.
Ah, yes. I thought we'd come to that.
Eh? Holmes, what?
The fact is, Lestrade, with all the best intentions of a consulting detective, I do occasionally show my foibles. The diamond is not here. I've lost it.
Holmes, lost it?
It could be anywhere between here and the Royal Albert Hall. But if I may say, Lestrade, I have helped you catch another very real diamond tonight. Eddie Benedict was a considerable foe, and I should say you owe me a great deal.
I can't deny I'm indebted to you for that, and for many other services, Mr. Holmes, but to have lost a diamond...
Come, Lestrade, pull yourself together. I dare say someone will find it. For now, I suggest another drink, and here, pull this cracker.
Oh, really, Mr. Holmes, I am in no mood for...
Oh, come, I insist. Grab hold of this end, Lestrade.
Oh, very well.
And...
What?
Your prize, Lestrade.
Holmes, you scoundrel. The diamond. The diamond, Mr. Holmes.
The diamond, Lestrade, the Beau Fiddlé Diamond belonging to the Countess of Surrey. You'll forgive my little joke, Lestrade.
Oh, Mr. Holmes. You must have put it in the cracker while I was sending for Lestrade, Holmes.
You're quite right, Watson. Well, now, I think that puts an end to the matter. There is the business of the reward, however. Please tell the Countess Lestrade, when you return the jewel to her, that the fun she gave me this Christmas Eve was quite its own reward. But that, should she wish to make some small charitable donation on my behalf, say to the Baker Street Irregulars, I should be most grateful.
Eh? The Baker Street Irregulars?
Your very good health, gentlemen, and a Merry Christmas, one and all.
Amen.